Hey, Ramblin' Ted here. I'm back in Old Washington, Arkansas. I didn't really have a plan for a video this week, and I was talking to my stepdaughter about it, and she was talking about asking me if I'd ever done Old Washington. I said, yeah, I've been there several times. She said, well, have you ever seen the moon tree? I'm like, what? Oh, the what? The moon tree. And turns out there's a tree here planted from a seed which went up on Apollo 14 and circled the moon 34 times and then came back to Earth. So I'm going to find it. It said the old courthouse. I think this is the new courthouse that that one. I think that's the newer courthouse that I'm in front of. But we're going to find it. It's somewhere here. So stick with us. This, I believe, is it was built in the 1800s, but I think they call this one the new courthouse. And I believe the tree is at the old courthouse, which so it's kind of across town, but Old Washington is not a huge place, so doing a little work there. I'm gonna walk around back anyway just to make sure, but I don't see anything that looks like a loblolly pine. Now the funny thing about loblolly pine is there's a movie from 1981, which stars John Schneider, and it's called Dream House. And I couldn't remember the movie. All I can remember about this movie is him saying Mississippi loblolly pine over and over.
But this is Mississippi loblolly pine.
And the whole thing became sort of a running gag between my brother and I when we worked on houses and worked on buildings. And every time we'd see wood in a house, we'd say, it's Mississippi loblolly pine, you know. Well, I couldn't remember who was in that movie. In my mind, for some reason, it is, who's that actor? Dennis Quaid. In my mind, it's Dennis Quaid, but it wasn't. Turns out it was John Schneider, which is a funny story. A band I was in, we opened up for John Schneider, who's doing country music now. Really nice guy. To me, anyway. I mean, he was very friendly. But I met him and his wife that day, and his wife has since passed away, which is pretty sad because they seemed like a really good couple. But anyway, so it's kind of a funny tie-in. But yeah, he was always saying Mississippi loblolly pine. It's Mississippi, you know. It's a weird movie. You'd have to see it.
It was made out of Mississippi loblolly pine.
If you watch it, I think it's on YouTube. Man, it comes off a lot different in today's day and age than it came off back then. It is, he's basically a stalker. He follows this woman all the way to New York. It's like a reverse Hallmark movie. But it's very stalkerish. It's kind of creepy. But yeah. But anyway, he talks about Mississippi loblolly pine all the time in that movie. So it's kind of funny that this tree is a loblolly pine. And I do not think it's here. I think this is the new courthouse. I believe we have to go to the old courthouse. I'll find out. There's actually a visitor center here, so I might kind of look in there and see. You know, that would be the easy thing to do. Or I can just walk around like a moron, because that's more my style. This is another town that, just like Jefferson, if you can, it's just beautiful. And this place is like, it is very much like it was back in the old days here in the middle of town. They've got it restored and set up just like it was back then. And Lisa brought Paula out this time. Get her out of the house and go for a little walk. You can point your camera any direction. It looks like a postcard.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy. The sky looks nice too. How are you? You doing okay? How you doing? Can I pet you? You are gonna let me pet you, aren't you? You're sweet. That's a good baby. Look at you. I don't think Paula knows what to think of horses. I'm allergic to horses, but they're still worth petting. On the Apollo 14 mission in 1971, a guy named Stuart Roosa, and when they do these things, you have three astronauts that go. Two of them take the lander down to the surface of the moon, and the other guy stays up in the capsule, and he orbits the moon. Well, Stuart Roosa was the guy who got to orbit, which would be pretty lonely. They went around, I think, 35 times. It took several days. They were up there a couple of days. And he's the guy who decided, he used to be a smoke jumper for the Forestry Service, which are the guys that jump into fires and stuff to fight fires. So he, since he used to work for the Forestry Service, they asked him to carry some tree seeds up to see what the effects of, being in space and going through the radiation belts and stuff would be. So he agreed, and it wasn't an officially sanctioned NASA thing. It was just something he decided to do. So he carried these things in a metal tube in his own personal stuff. I'm sure NASA was aware of it. I think they had to, check everything and make sure it was okay. But so he went around, and he circled the moon, orbited, waited for them to bring the lander back up, and they flew back to Earth. Well, it's a journey of 140-some thousand miles each way. It's quite a distance to go. So this is a tree seed that went through some stuff. Old carriage is up there. I'll tell you what, until you see an actual car or something, it is very easy to think you've gone back in time when you're here. Really, really neat. When they got back from the moon, they have to go through a decontamination process, and apparently the canister that these tree seeds were in, there were all kinds. There was pine. Apparently there's giant sequoia. So there's supposed to be a giant sequoia in California, and people say there is, and people say there isn't. So I'm not sure about all that, but kind of a mystery. But apparently this thing in decontamination, it ruptured, and when it ruptured, they thought maybe all the seeds had been ruined. They were really fearful for it. So nothing happened with them for another 5 years, and then in 1976 they did the our bicentennial, which, if you were alive then, and I was 9 years old, they did the bicentennial, and it was quite a big thing. So for the bicentennial, they decided to take about 400 of these seeds, I think, maybe 40. Anyway, they planted them all around the United States. And a lot of courthouses got them, and this is supposed to be at a courthouse here. And they planted them. 4 were planted here in Arkansas. Apparently only 2 survived. There's one in Little Rock still, and there is one here, if we can ever find it. Because my sense of direction isn't what it used to be. And the last time I was at the old courthouse here was probably 15 years ago with a friend of mine for a reenactment thing, and so I'm not doing too well at finding the old courthouse at all. But I will if I have to buy a map. We'll find it. I promise. It's here somewhere. I've decided to do that thing that men never do, and I'm going to ask somebody for directions. So guys, if you're watching this, there's no shame in it. You can ask for directions. It's not a big thing. So I'm going to go in the visitor center here in the new old courthouse and ask them where the old old courthouse is. Anyway. Sounds like a plan. Yep. I'm going to go in here and ask for directions. This is where I turn in my man card, folks. This is it. This is the end. I'll see you in a minute. Interesting in here. Got some cool stuff. Think there's anything about the moon tree? There it is. 1836 courthouse. There it is. That's it right there. Now if only I knew where that was. Y'all know I'm a musician. That is a neat looking old mandolin. Funny thing is, one of my favorite guitar players, Stevie Ray Vaughan, had a Stratocaster that someone had taken the inlay like that right there on the body of that mandolin and inlaid it behind the bridge on that Stratocaster. I always thought that was so cool. So that's neat. 1890. And it was built here in Washington, Arkansas. Amazing. Girl inside there was really nice and gave me a map. She said I did not have to turn in my man card. It was fine. Men ask for directions nowadays, so we're on the way. We're on our way. That's a bunch of road apples. Wow. Okay. And they talk about cars polluting, right? Whew. Need a scooper to walk behind that horse. It's a neat looking old church up there too, which we've already walked by once. I just apparently was off. I went down here and made a right, and according to the map you got to go down here and continue straight. So I'll get my bearings right one of these days. Alright, it's somewhere up here at the back of this old courthouse, which I think it looks different from it to the last time I was here. Of course, that was 15 years ago or 14 years ago probably. I'll have to look and see. I've got it in my memory somewhere. But somewhere up here is a tree that's been to space and orbited the moon. I don't know why there's an orange painted tire right here. I'll have to check that out until I get distracted like a squirrel, you know. I see something. They must shoot arrows through that or something. I have no idea. Anyway, it's an orange Firestone. I used to live behind the place where they made those big tractor tires. Okay, it's going to be back here behind this courthouse, I think. So like I was saying, in 1976, they were having a big to-do for the bicentennial celebration of America. And it was a huge thing. I remember it. I remember everything was red, white, and blue, man. People were going all out for the bicentennial. So they decided to plant some of these trees, and they did. So that means this thing's been here, what would that be? 48 years now? 48 years. So let's see how big it is. It's a pine. So I think I see it. This is a big old pine. Looks like it's probably 50 feet tall. Maybe 45, 50 feet tall. Here we go. Oh, wow. All right. You ready for this? Because it's a tree that's been to space. I don't know how else to describe it. There's not much cooler than that to me. But I'm a little weird. And I was a big fan of the space program growing up as a child. So let's take a look. That's going to be it. A tree that has been to space and orbited the moon.
You couldn't have told me it's the same kind of pine tree in our yard.
It looks just like the one in our yard, doesn't it? The one in our yard hasn't been to space, though. Come on. We had to cut one down.
But it would have narrowed down what I was looking for.
Yeah, right? You can't read this plaque anymore. At all.
Something over here.
Yeah, I think they had to make a new one. That one was probably put there at the dedication in 1976, so that's been a while. Oh, you can scan the... Okay, I'm going to see if I can get this. Where maybe you can scan it off of the... I don't know, off the... Hang on a second. Historic tree. Learn more about the Ball 14 moon tree on Clio and the Clio app. So that's kind of cool. Neat. Anyway, not a lot here about it though. I mean, there used to be a plaque. You'd think people would be a little more excited about a tree that has been to space. But I'm also weird. I don't know if you could hear what Lisa was saying a minute ago, but we literally have a tree identical to that in our yard. It looks just like it. So apparently, I've been living underneath a loblolly pine forever. And now, the bad thing is, every time I go in the yard and we're out there, I'm going to say, that's a Mississippi loblolly pine. And she's going to hate me even more. I'm going to see if I can get a distant shot of it. So this was the Confederate Capitol. And what they did was they took the stuff from here when the Union troops were getting too close, and they occupied Little Rock. The government relocated to Washington, and then when they got too close to Washington, they actually went to a place outside of Texarkana that I've done I think my first video was about it, and it became the capital for a little while. So they just kept moving it east, and when they got to Texarkana, that's about as far as or moving it west, and when they got to Texarkana, that's as far as you can get without being in Texas. So they were kind of up against a wall there. But yeah, they moved all the records and stuff to a town called Rondo, just outside Texarkana. Cool. Yeah, that's exactly like the one in our yard, and it's about the same height. It looks a little nicer. It's a little more well kept, I think, and
I
trimmed.
think the bark is just a little bit different
Maybe a little.
in ours. But that might be just a matter of like age or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the same kind of pine needles and pine cones.
Looks just like it. Yeah. Looks a whole lot like it. That's funny. Ours hasn't been to the moon though. I mean, this one orbited the moon 34 times, so, and flew 140 some thousand miles each way. That's a long trip. I've had cars with almost that many miles on. Another thing Washington has, and I've done a video about it, is the biggest magnolia tree in Arkansas. Now that's two. There's one in Texarkana that's also supposed to be the biggest, but it's the biggest by trunk diameter. This is the largest overall, and it's right over there. You can't come here without paying a visit to it, so we're going to head over there and take a look at it real quick. It's kind of funny. I have a weird theory about life that sometimes you just need to, and people laugh at me for this, and maybe I'm an old hippie, but sometimes you just need to contemplate a tree. You know, go out, sit and look at that tree, because I'll tell you, when you think all your problems in your life is really crazy or horrible, and you gotta look, a tree is its own world, and when you look at it for long enough, you'll start to figure that out. It is literally its own microcosm of life. All the insects and everything in that tree live their own life, and they don't know anything about you, don't know anything about yours, don't know anything about humans. They don't care. And sometimes maybe you need to shut off the news. Just go look at a tree, man, and you know, see what's going on in that tree, because nothing going on in the world has any bearing hardly, except maybe pollution a little bit, on what those birds and insects and everything else in that tree do. They don't care. So you just need to sometimes get outside, freaking touch a tree. You know, everybody drives around in their cars now with the windows up, air conditioning on. They never get fresh air. Their feet never touch the ground. Their hands never touch dirt anymore. And it's a shame. And I do it. I find myself doing the same thing. You know? So you've got to, and just seriously, go out and stare at a tree for a while. And sometimes it needs to be a big tree. But either way, you go look at a tree for a while and you will see that your life is not nearly as important as you seem to think it is sometimes. It's just the way it is. You know, when we're kids, you look at a field like this one behind me, and you see every blade of grass down there. You see all the grass, right? When you get older, you just start to see a field of green. You stop to see the little things. And you should try sometimes to look at the tree and look at the grass and just think about that for a little bit. Or you can think I'm just an old long-haired hippie who's full of crap. Not do it. Things will be better if you do, though. Trust me. I don't think video conveys how large this tree really is. It takes up basically an entire city block of land. It is huge. Planted in 1839. Please do not climb, because they've had to put supports up to support some of the branches because it's so old. But yeah, it's so cool. Look at that. That's a picture right there. There's Paula right there by the giant tree. Might have to save that as my desktop or something. But yeah, you can look and notice that the branches come off this thing. All the knots and stuff. And come down like this one right here does. Comes all the way down and touches the ground right there. It's craziness. There's one over here that used to have had a support up underneath it. You can see that metal support, but it is finally broken off too. It's just neat. It's a big tree. It's really hard to get people to see how huge this thing is. It doesn't show up in video real well. But yeah, definitely a big, huge. Like I said, it literally takes up, width-wise, probably a whole city block, and depth-wise, I'm going to say more than half a block, probably 3/4 of a block. One of my last videos here, I did that house right there. I went inside there and there was a guy in there talking about stuff in the house. And I think down through that road is where there's a cemetery down there that was in one of the first videos I did here. If you go on this way, there's a blacksmith shop, an old blacksmith shop, and you can see the river. A lot of history in this town. A lot of history. The Underground Railroad was through here. There was the Native American, the Trail of Tears, came through this town. In fact, they come down that trail by the river, if I remember right. Yeah, but that magnolia, now that I'm away from it a little, it's pretty massive. It's not super tall. I'd say it's about 60, 70, 80 feet tall maybe. But it literally takes up a block. I mean, they used to be able to drive down that road in front of it. Now you can't because it keeps getting bigger. But I just think it's neat. I could live under that thing. I could literally put me a mattress down there and probably live under that thing for a while and be fine. But I'm a weirdo. I like living outside sometimes. I love to go camping. I love the outdoors. If I can ever get to where I do YouTube for a living, and it's getting better. Stuff's been picking up, and I've got a lot of people watching my videos, so I'm pretty happy. You know, making a little YouTube cash to help out. But I would really like to be able to do this all the time. And that's going to take you guys, man. Share my videos. And I know I'm not the greatest video editor, and my stuff isn't slick and fancy, but I'll probably never be that. It's just not in me. Maybe I'll work on it a little bit, because it'd be nice. But, you know, share my videos and subscribe and like my stuff if you want to. If you don't, you know, just come and watch it. I don't care. But yeah, it's all, I don't think I could walk on that sidewalk. Lisa decided to take the roadway. But yeah, it's been a fun ride, this whole YouTube thing. I've been doing it. It's getting close to 3 years now, I think. I'll have to look up when my anniversary was. I think it was October. But yeah, definitely neat. I'm gonna put a shout out on here to friend of mine on YouTube, Dr. Hannah Straight, because she's always doing cool stuff, and I want her to see if she can find, she's in California, I want her to see if she can find the giant sequoias that are in California, because that would be cool if she can find those, and if anybody can do it, she can. So I'm gonna have to tag her in this. My friend Wonder Hussy, if you don't watch Wonder Hussy Adventures, you should. She's great. She comes through Arkansas all the time, so I'll probably tag her too, because she should, this is definitely something she should, she likes the quirky and the weird, so this is something she should probably do a video on. Is this tree here or the one in Little Rock? Either one, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I think we're about to wrap this up. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. Man, it's a long uphill, and I'm not getting any younger, right? Anyway, thanks for joining me on this little trip. I know it wasn't much to look at. It looks like it's just a pine tree, but it's a pine tree that's been to space. I think that's pretty cool. And they're all over. There's a lot of them. So if you search moon trees, you'll find a list of where they were all planted and the ones that are still alive and where you can visit them, where you can go to see them. Like I always tell you guys, costs nothing to be nice. Be good to each other. Thanks for joining me, and go out and contemplate a tree today. It'll do something for you. Till next time. See y'all later.
This isn't firewood. Mississippi loblolly pine. Piece of American history.